Grandpa's 85th birthday party was being held in Heritage Manufacturing's executive conference room, the one with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the factory floor. For generations of the Morrison family gathered around the mahogany table where my great-grandfather had built his steel fabrication empire into a $150 million operation. I was sitting at the far end of the table wearing my usual family gathering outfit, a simple navy dress from Target and flat-side bought on clearance. My job as a night-shift quality inspector at a competing manufacturing plant wasn't exactly the kind of position that impressed the Heritage Manufacturing dynasty. The celebration was in full swing. Cousin Marcus, who served as Heritage's chief operating officer, had just finished his toast about Grandpa's vision and business legacy. The whole family was feeling nostalgic about the company that had supported 3 generations of Morrisons. "Look around this room," Marcus said, gesturing toward the framed photos of Heritage's facility expansions over the decades. "This is what real entrepreneurship looks like. Grandpa started with nothing and built an empire." My cousin Jessica, Heritage's vice president of sales, raised her wine glass. "To 4 generations of Morrison innovation. To the family members who understood that building wealth requires courage and vision." Everyone toasted enthusiastically. My Uncle David, Heritage's CEO, beamed with pride as he looked around the table at his children and grandchildren who'd all found their place in the company hierarchy. Then Marcus's gaze fell on me and his expression shifted slightly. "Of course," he said, "not everyone in the family chooses the entrepreneurial path. Some people prefer simpler work." The table turned to look at me. I was cutting my birthday cake into precise, small pieces, letting their attention wash over me like background noise. Uncle David cleared his throat. "Marcus, let's keep this positive. It's Grandpa's birthday." But Marcus was warming to his theme. "No, I think it's important to acknowledge different life choices. Take Cousin Rachel here. She's chosen to work for our competitors rather than join the family business." My cousin Brian, Heritage's chief financial officer, nodded thoughtfully. "The quality inspection field is adequate work. Not everyone can handle the pressure of real business leadership." Aunt Sandra, who managed Heritage's human resources, added diplomatically, "There's nothing wrong with technical positions. Companies need quality control workers." The condescension was gentle but unmistakable. Grandpa, sitting at the head of the table, looked confused. "Rachel works in quality control? I thought she was in college." Jessica laughed. "Grandpa, Rachel's been out of college for 6 years. She works night shifts at Pinnacle Industrial. 3rd shift quality inspection." "Pinnacle?" Grandpa frowned. "But they're our competitor." Marcus seized the moment. "Exactly. Rachel chose to work for the competition rather than contribute to the family legacy. Some people just don't have the Morrison business instinct." Uncle David tried to steer the conversation away from me. "Well, everyone makes their own choices. The important thing is that Heritage Manufacturing continues to thrive under family leadership." But Marcus wasn't finished. "I just think it's worth noting the difference between family members who build something meaningful and those who take the easier path." He looked directly at me. "Rachel, you've been working at Pinnacle for what, 3 years now? Do you ever think about trying to contribute to something bigger? Something that matters to the family?" The entire table was watching me, waiting for me to defend my career choices or perhaps ask for advice on how to improve my prospects. I put down my fork and smiled. "Marcus, you're absolutely right. Family business isn't for losers. It requires real entrepreneurs." Everyone seemed pleased with this response. Several family members nodded approvingly. "That's good self-awareness," Jessica said. "Not everyone can handle the complexity of running a manufacturing operation." Brian added, "Heritage requires strategic thinking, financial planning, operational oversight. It's not for everyone." I raised my wine glass. "To the family members who understand real business, who have the vision to build something lasting." More toasts. More celebration of their collective business acumen. Marcus smiled with satisfaction. "See, Rachel gets it. She understands her limitations and respects what we've built here." I excused myself to use the restroom and walked through Heritage's executive offices, past the framed awards and certificates of achievement. The company my family had built into a regional manufacturing powerhouse while I worked night shifts for their competitors. What none of them knew was that I'd been Heritage Manufacturing's majority shareholder since 2019. Through a complex structure of investment vehicles managed by Blackstone Financial Services, I owned 62% of Heritage Manufacturing. The initial investment had been $45 million from my inheritance. Money my great-aunt Margaret had left me in a trust that somehow the family had never learned about. Over 4 years, as Heritage expanded and modernized their equipment, my position had grown to $150 million. Every major decision my family had made about their company had ultimately been approved by my representatives on Heritage's board of directors. Every equipment purchase, every facility expansion, every strategic contract had been funded with my money, while Marcus explained to relatives why I lacked the Morrison business instinct. I called my investment advisor, Jonathan Pierce, from Heritage's executive bathroom. "Jonathan, it's Rachel. I need to initiate dissolution procedures for Heritage Manufacturing." "Rachel, that's your largest holding. Are you certain about this decision?" "I'm certain. I want to exercise my majority voting rights to dissolve the company. Complete liquidation within 60 days. There was a pause. "This will destroy the company entirely. Heritage's operational structure depends on continuous family management. Without that continuity, the client contracts will be voided." "I understand the implications." "Rachel, this seems like an emotional response. Maybe we should schedule a meeting to discuss." "Jonathan, I've been monitoring Heritage's performance metrics for 18 months. Their operational efficiency has declined 20% since 2021. They're using outdated equipment because family members resist technology upgrades. Customer satisfaction scores have dropped across all product lines. They're running the company like it's still 1985. This was all accurate. While my family celebrated their business heritage, they'd been making increasingly poor operational decisions. Too much resistance to modernization, too little investment in efficiency improvements, too many family members in positions they weren't qualified for. "If you're certain," Jonathan said, "I'll begin the dissolution process. The board will be notified Monday morning." "Perfect. And Jonathan, make sure the documentation clearly identifies that this decision comes from Meridian Holdings. I want the board to understand exactly who's been funding their operations." Meridian Holdings, M.H. Margaret Holdings, named after my great-aunt who'd left me the inheritance. A little tribute I'd been enjoying privately for 4 years. I returned to the conference room where dessert was winding down and coffee was being served. The family was discussing Heritage's bright future. "The expansion into automotive parts manufacturing is going to be transformative," Brian was saying. "We've identified 3 major contracts for the next fiscal year." Uncle David nodded enthusiastically. Heritage has the reputation and infrastructure to dominate that market segment. I sat down and sipped my coffee while they planned their company's continued growth with money that would disappear in approximately 72 hours. My phone buzzed with a text from Jonathan. "Board notification scheduled for 9 a.m. Monday. Expect immediate response." The birthday party concluded around 9 p.m. with the traditional tour of Heritage's factory floor. 85 family members walked through the manufacturing facility, past the steel-cutting equipment and assembly lines that represented 4 generations of Morrison achievement. I stood near the back of the group, next to my cousins who managed various aspects of the business they thought they controlled. Grandpa led the tour with obvious pride, explaining the evolution of Heritage's manufacturing processes over the decades. "This company isn't just about profit," he said. "It's about family legacy. It's about building something that lasts." Marcus walked beside him, adding commentary about Heritage's future growth potential. "We're positioned to double our revenue over the next 5 years. The Morrison family knows how to build sustainable wealth." I listened to their plans while calculating the timeline for Heritage's dissolution in my head. Monday morning I was beginning my night shift at Pinnacle Industrial when my phone started ringing. "Uncle David." I let it go to voicemail. Then Marcus called. Then Jessica. By Tuesday afternoon I had 17 missed calls and 23 text messages. Uncle David's voicemail. "Rachel, something catastrophic has happened. Our majority shareholder has voted to dissolve Heritage Manufacturing. I don't understand what's going on, but we need an emergency family meeting." Marcus's text. "Have you heard about Heritage? Someone called Meridian Holdings just voted to shut down the entire company." We're trying to figure out who they are. Jessica's voicemail. Rachel, I know you work for our competitors, but this affects the whole family. Heritage is being dissolved by an investor we've never heard of. I deleted the messages and continued with my quality inspection work. The automotive parts one was checking had been manufactured by Heritage's main competitor, a company that would likely benefit from Heritage's dissolution. Wednesday evening, while I was reviewing production specifications, my phone buzzed with an emergency text from Uncle David. Emergency family meeting Thursday 7 p.m. at Heritage offices. Company dissolution crisis. All family members must attend. I typed back, I'm working Thursday night. Can't make it. He responded immediately, this is about Heritage Manufacturing, Rachel. The family legacy. This is more important than your shift work. I'm not part of Heritage Manufacturing, remember? Marcus said the family business isn't for losers like me. He didn't respond to that. The emergency meeting happened without me, but I got updates throughout the week from various family members who couldn't understand why I wasn't more concerned about Heritage's situation. Mom called Thursday morning. Rachel, your Uncle David is devastated. Apparently some investment company called Meridian Holdings owned most of Heritage and just voted to shut everything down. No warning, no negotiation. That sounds complicated, I said. I'm sure Uncle David will figure something out. He's very good at business. But they're talking about liquidating everything. The equipment, the facilities, the client contracts. For generations of work, just gone. I thought about how to answer that. Maybe the investor had reasons we don't understand. Friday, Marcus called. Rachel, I know you're not involved in Heritage's operations, but do you know anyone who might be interested in buying manufacturing equipment? We're going to lose everything unless we can find emergency funding. I don't really move in investment circles, Marcus. I'm just a quality inspector, remember? Right, but maybe through Pinnacle? Maybe some of their suppliers need equipment. I almost laughed. I'll keep an ear out. The following week, Brian called with desperation in his voice. Rachel, I'm going to ask you something that might sound insane. Meridian Holdings. The initials are MH. Your great-aunt's name was Margaret. Margaret Holdings. Is there any chance? I mean, this is going to sound crazy, but is there any chance you know something about this company? I was quiet for a long moment. Brian, that does sound crazy. Where would I get $150 million to invest in manufacturing companies? I know. It's just that the timing is so strange. The dissolution vote happened 3 days after Grandpa's birthday party, right after Marcus made those comments about your career choices. You think I destroyed the family business because Marcus hurt my feelings? No, of course not. I told you it was insane. But the board records show that Meridian Holdings has been Heritage's majority shareholder for 4 years. 4 years, Rachel. They've been controlling our company this entire time and we never knew it. That is strange. And they never participated in board meetings. Never communicated with management. Just watched. Like they were waiting for something. I didn't respond immediately. Rachel, is there anything you're not telling us about your financial situation? I looked around my small apartment at the simple furniture and basic electronics. The apartment that cost me $900 a month while I had $73 million sitting in various investment accounts after Heritage's liquidation. Brian, you heard Marcus at the birthday party. I lack the Morrison business instinct. Why would you think I'd be capable of secretly controlling a manufacturing company? Because whoever did this would have to be very smart, and very patient, and very strategic. 2 weeks later, Heritage Manufacturing ceased operations entirely. Without Meridian Holdings' continued support, they couldn't maintain contracts with their major clients. The facility was sold to Pinnacle Industrial, who modernized the equipment and hired many of Heritage's former employees at higher wages. The family was devastated. Uncle David had to declare personal bankruptcy. Marcus, Jessica, and Brian all lost their executive positions and had to find work with other companies. Several family members lost their retirement savings that had been tied up in Heritage stock. Grandpa took it the hardest. He'd spent 60 years building Heritage into a regional manufacturing leader, and watched it disappear in 60 days. Dad called me 3 times during this period, each conversation more confused than the last. Rachel, I don't understand how this happened. Heritage was profitable. They had solid contracts. They had family management. Maybe the investor had different priorities, I suggested. But who votes to dissolve a profitable manufacturing company? It doesn't make financial sense. I wouldn't know, Dad. I don't understand business complexity, remember? The final conversation came 6 weeks after Grandpa's birthday party. Rachel, I need to ask you something directly, and I want you to be completely honest with me. Okay. At the birthday party, when Marcus was talking about your career, when he said family business wasn't for losers like you, how did that make you feel? I thought carefully about how to answer. Dad, Marcus has been saying things like that about my career for years. If I got upset every time a family member dismissed my potential, I'd never stop being upset. But this time was different. This time was in front of Grandpa. In front of everyone. It was. And 3 days later, our mystery investor destroyed the company. Coincidences happen. There was a long silence. Rachel, Meridian Holdings. MH, Margaret's initials. I noticed that too. Margaret left you money in that trust fund. Money the family never talked about because it was substantial. She left me some money, yes. How substantial, Rachel? I walked to my window, looking out at the Pinnacle Industrial Facility where I still worked night shifts. In the distance, I could see the empty Heritage Manufacturing building with for sale signs in the windows. Dad, what are you asking me? I'm asking if you're Meridian Holdings. Dad, if I were Meridian Holdings, that would mean I'd spent 4 years secretly funding the family business while Marcus told everyone I was too stupid to understand entrepreneurship. Yes. That would mean I sat through dozens of family gatherings listening to him mock my career while I was actually the person paying his salary. Yes. That would mean I have access to the kind of money and business expertise that he's always said I was too simple to understand. Yes. And that would mean Marcus has been completely wrong about my capabilities for years. There was a very long silence. Finally, Dad said, Rachel, are you Meridian Holdings? Dad, what do you think? Another silence. Then, I think Marcus learned a very expensive lesson about underestimating people. Yes, he did. And I think I need to apologize for not defending you at that birthday party. Yes, you do. And I think you just showed this family what real business strategy looks like. I smiled, watching the sunset reflect off the empty Heritage building. Business strategy is about patience, Dad. And timing. And knowing when to cut your losses. 3 months later, most of my cousins had found new positions in the manufacturing industry, though none at the executive level they'd been accustomed to. Uncle David was working as a consultant, trying to rebuild his professional reputation after Heritage's collapse. The family dynamics had shifted completely. No one made comments about my career choices anymore. When we gathered for holidays, relatives asked about my work with genuine interest. They treated me like someone whose opinions mattered. During Christmas dinner, Marcus approached me privately. Rachel, I've been thinking about what happened with Heritage. Oh. About whether the family could have done anything differently. Whether we could have maintained our investors' confidence. I thought about this. Probably. Investors usually want to feel that their contributions are valued. They want to know that management respects all stakeholders. Instead of dismissing some people as losers. Marcus nodded slowly. Good investors are hard to find. Smart money doesn't just disappear without reason. Usually not. So if a family had an investor who'd been supporting them for years, they should probably treat everyone connected to that investor with respect. Probably. Even if those people seem to have simple jobs on the surface. Especially if those people seem to have simple jobs on the surface. We stood in comfortable silence for a while. Finally, Marcus said, Rachel, I don't know if you'll ever tell me the complete truth about what happened with Heritage. Maybe someday. But I want you to know that regardless of what the truth is, I'm sorry for what I said at Grandpa's birthday party. I was wrong to dismiss your potential. I smiled. Thank you, Marcus. And if you ever decide to get involved in business ventures in the future, I hope you'll consider letting me participate. Maybe as someone who listens more and talks less. I thought about this offer. About whether our relationship was ready for that level of partnership. I'll keep that in mind, I said. 6 months later, I made my first open investment under my own name. A small precision manufacturing company that specialized in aerospace components. Rachel Morrison, investor and strategic advisor. The owner, Mr. Chin, was surprised when I offered to help fund his expansion. Are you sure you understand the manufacturing business? It's quite complex. I smiled. I have some experience with quality control. The company thrived under improved management and expanded to include contracts with 3 major aerospace companies. Mr. Chen often told colleagues that his success was due to finding the right investor at the right time. Someone who understood manufacturing from the ground up, he'd say. Someone who knew how to evaluate quality and efficiency. And sometimes when family members visited the facility, I'd catch them watching me discuss production specifications with Mr. Chen's engineers. They never said anything, but I could tell they were connecting the dots between my approach to investing and whatever lessons they'd learned from the heritage experience. Because the best business lessons are the ones that teach you to recognize expertise and wisdom wherever you find it. Even in the people you thought you understood completely. Especially in the people you underestimated completely.